Guys, doctor, help me. I've come down with a bad case of Delorum ipsum. What do I do?
You fill out your damn website. That's what you do.
This is the Inbox. In this video, we are going to answer a bunch of questions from the community that are posted onto techsyndicate.com/forum/inbox, or you can just go to our website and click on the forum and then go to the inbox. Post your questions there. That's the only place we look when it comes to questions, and I ignore YouTube comments these days because most YouTube comments just make me angry because I'm sad for the world and I want to correct people because I'm like, man, this person is ignorant. I wish I could correct them, but it usually ends up with like, some sort of an ethnic slur contest. And so I leave YouTube comments alone. So if you want to be cool and comment somewhere where I may actually read it, go to our website and comment there. And we are improving the comment system for all of you nerds out there.
The comment system on YouTube is like radioactive, except instead of making you sick or giving you cancer, it makes you illiterate.
I was hoping it was going to turn me into like Spider-Man.
You unlearn things.
You have lymphoma.
What did you expect?
Damn it. Man.
All right. This first question, I believe, is for you and I, Kane, and maybe Wendell can jump in there a little bit, but it's a silly question. No, not silly. No questions are silly. I am silly, so I will answer this question from Croth. What hot sauce do you usually use? Hello, Tech Syndicate, or Hey, Tech Syndicate. My question is for Logan and anyone else who wants to chip in. I'm looking to know what type of hot sauce you use. My tolerance is higher than most people I know. I'm currently using ghost pepper hot sauce. Just wondering if there's something better. All right, Kane, favorite hot sauces? Or should I go first and then you can chime in?
I have a list of ones that I really like. I got Blair's Megadeth on the Ultra Death. Ultra Death has actually got a little less of a good flavor to it, but it's still pretty damn hot.
The reason for that is, and you and I used to eat Blair's all the time, and I kind of stopped eating Blair's, even though they're stupid hot. You need like 2 drops, and you're good to go on your sandwich or whatever.
I don't know. I just kind of go.
You just glop it on there. I stopped eating them mainly because they rely so heavily on the extract, and it's not just actually the pepper. Like you don't get as much of the pepper flavor because they just want it to spice.
Yeah.
You get that with Dave's Insanity and Blair's. Those are the two big brands.
The Ultra Death was worse than in the Blair's. The Ultra Death sauce was like the hottest one that he made. That wasn't like one of his special reserve sauces. That was really, really, really whatever. But it had less of a flavor to it than Megadeth. Megadeth was really, really nice. There's a couple other that I've had. I've had a couple of Scotch bonnet-based peppers that's a lot sweeter, but they still have a really nice kick to them. I like a lot. I don't know. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I've ran out of sauces actually. I've been using sriracha for the last couple of weeks.
Sriracha is like something I just cover like everything in, but for every day of my life, I wake up and I make some breakfast and I cover it in the Tropical Pepper Company makes a ghost pepper sauce that is really, really tasty. It doesn't have all that vinegar and junk in it that you get in most pepper sauces. So check out theirs. And if you want something a little bit hotter, they make a scorpion pepper sauce that I think is really tasty. Also, Melinda's is the other company I recommend. They make a ghost pepper sauce, but again, it's not something that's so hot that you can't eat it. If you want something that's so hot you can't eat it, you got to probably just grab a pepper and eat the pepper itself. But that's what I eat every day is the Tropical Pepper Company ghost pepper sauce. There was a lot of hot peppers in Kentucky. I bought a scorpion pepper off of a guy at a farmer's market in Kentucky. I was like, what? And that was very hot.
If you want something that's not so much a hot sauce, but something that's really, 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 really hot, really spicy, come to New York. We'll go to Brick Lane Curry House, and we'll get you the fall curry. Or the
there's a ghost pepper curry.
That's a ghost pepper curry. They've actually got a martini they make called the Ghost, and it's like garnished with a red Thai chili or something. And it's that one right there. It's like, that's tasty. And then you drink the Ghost martini is made with ghost pepper extract, which is what it is. But when you drink it, you're just like, wow, it's like drinking fire. Yeah. I was with my coworkers the last time, and I'm like, here, take a taste of this. And the guy's like, little sip on his lip. He goes, that's not that bad. I'm like, give it 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, he's like, oh my God, my mouth is still on fire.
Your face is like sweating and everything.
And I'm like, damn right it is.
All right, Wendell, do you have a favorite hot sauce, or do you eat hot sauce?
I really, actually, the hottest thing that I eat is probably the wasabi, which is not really wasabi, from like a Japanese restaurant.
It's like a different kind of hot. It's like the radish spicy where it makes your nose and your face feel like it's on fire for 10 seconds, then it goes away magically.
Oh, in wintertime, man, I can't get enough of that stuff because it clears my sinuses. I can breathe. It's amazing.
You should just keep like a shot glass of wasabi extract by your desk and just down the ass.
every time I do that, I feel like the guy in Scarface. It's like he's like he's doing the cocaine thing because it's just like I can feel it. I can feel it in my nose and throat, and it's just like, oh, I can breathe.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. I'll throw some links to those hot sauces that I recommend. I buy them in like 12 packs. Like I literally buy 12 packs of that stuff. I love it. And then I just use it liberally because I'm like, hey, I've got a 12 pack. I can just drink it. All right. I have not read this one, but it looked interesting. It's from Kinfo93. Do we as gamers live in a nostalgia state of mind? So it's quite a bit of a paragraph here, but I'm going to go through it and then I'll cut it up and post if I think it's too long. So I want to preface by saying that I have been playing games for years. I was born in 1993, which is important to the rest of the thread. I might bring the newer generation of gamers. So apparently everyone is complaining too much about the newer games and that sort of thing. And I think there's a really easy way to look at this. It's similar to Hollywood versus indie films and that sort of thing. You have the old guys who grew up, and back in the old days, when you grew up with like the original Nintendo and that sort of thing, almost all of the games had sort of an independent flavor yet because games weren't big enough to attract the eye of major producers, and there were no major producers. It was a bunch of nerds in a room producing a game, and they would make whatever they wanted. A lot of times there was not a lot of people yelling at them. I mean, if we go even back farther than that, you had guys like, even Wozniak made some games, and then Carmack made some games, and John Romero was making games. And they would make games on their own, and then they would submit them to magazines in hopes that like a magazine would pick up that game and then publish it, or put it on their thing, or that maybe Atari would publish it. So games were really more of a grassroots thing back in the day, and a lot of us got used to that sort of thing. And there was a charm to them, there was some quirk to them, and now a lot of the quirks in the mainstream titles have been kind of ironed out. Like, hey, listen, we know that people like zombies. We know that they like, futuristic stuff, and we know that they like birds. So all games from Activision must have zombies, birds, and futuristic stuff. Go. So that's kind of what's happening right now with a lot of the mainstream titles, and people are complaining about that. Go ahead.
There's so much room for innovation in games, more than just recycling. Nintendo got it right with a whole bunch of their characters, and there's recycling and blah blah. So I don't know that it's really nostalgia because, somebody that played Super Mario Brothers 3 might not have any interest in playing the original Super Mario Brothers, but maybe somebody who played like Super Mario World, they might play Super Mario Brothers 3, but they're probably not going to play and enjoy the original Super Mario Brothers. Maybe, but these are sort of the same characters over and over again. But you look at innovative games like Portal and Scribblenauts and Psychonauts and I don't know, I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head. A lot of the Lucasfilm games were really amazing. And a lot of the reason you see this funded on Kickstarter is not because of the nostalgia. These people are doing new projects. It's because nobody's producing innovative stuff anymore except for the indie game companies. And the indie game companies have a lot of really interesting games that have a really deep, interesting story that don't have necessarily the same production values, but are otherwise really good games.
I think another thing that goes along with all this stuff is that it's not exactly a nostalgia state of mind. It's more of a state of mind of, hey, we expect for our intelligence not to be insulted when we play a game, and we expect this not to be Hollywood. And we want those kind of games. So, of course, we complain about the mainstream Hollywood games. The better thing to do probably would be to ignore those games entirely, but they're so big and there's such a mainstream audience for it. Call of Duty, even the newest game, as much as anybody complains about it, it's going to sell a gazillion copies. It's not going to sell a gazillion copies to a lot of the people who live in the quote-unquote nostalgia state of mind, or a lot of people who play the indie games, but it's going to sell a gazillion copies to almost like casual gamers or console gamers. I don't know who's going to buy that crap, but somebody's going to buy it. But a lot of people on our website are, more experienced, probably better educated, I should say, and they just have a desire for something with more substance, and that sort of thing is out there. But the major publishers don't push it. And so that's another thing. The stuff that's being pushed the hardest and shoved down our throats the hardest is the garbage, the trite nonsense, the contrived, derivative junk that all these major companies know will sell. And I was angry about this at first. And then one day I thought of something, or I was, Wendell, I was actually reading the book that you recommended, Freakonomics, right? And in Freakonomics, there's a chapter in there, and I forgot what the exact chapter was, but it made me start thinking about the world differently. There are, TV, for instance, like you got reality TV and that sort of thing, and everyone complains that TV is making people stupid. But what if people were just stupid, and there's nothing we can do about it? And that's what they watch, because they're stupid. What about that angle? Because I'm not going to watch that crap, and you're not going to watch that crap, and Kane's not going to watch that crap, and 98.7785% of our audience is not going to watch that crap because they're not stupid. They never watch that crap, ever. But the people that are stupid already are watching that crap.
I have something that's completely related, but totally unrelated, and if you can make the leap, then, kudos. I'll buy you a coffee sometime. It's like Galaxy Quest is the best Star Trek movie that there ever was, probably.
Well, compared to the new ones.
Thermian audio track?
Well, the main reason I say that is because the Thermians are sort of the idealistic Star Wars fans. And now, what does that have to do with what Logan just said? That's out of left field. Well, no, not entirely. I think that in the past, television, you look at, especially television in the 1940s and 50s, and like I Love Lucy, where they're sleeping in separate beds, and Lassie and stuff like that. It was really sort of an idealistic. It was aspirational and things like that. And so, in Galaxy Quest, you have the Thermians who are like the quintessential perfect, completely innocent, if naive, fans of Star Trek, if you will, and they're trying to make things better and do things better and blah blah blah. And now we're just sort of wallowing in the sort of the dirtiness and the filthiness of humanity, and the programming is not really aspirational. There's not an aspirational component to it where humanity's not trying to be better than it is. If anything, it's we're all trapped down here in the filth. And I guess there's something literary to that, but I think that we've really lost something as a society when you don't really have any aspirational media that's setting a positive role model in leadership and conflict resolution and looking at things for the future and that sort of thing.
I do think there are a lot of amazing games coming out, and I think there's a lot of amazing games on the horizon, and I think there's a lot of amazing crowdfunded things that are happening right now. It's just we tend to focus on the things that we hate so much, and the things that are derivative, and the things that are just all this garbage. And I don't know if we should even focus on that stuff anymore. Why can't we just ignore Call of Duty and all the games like it? Games like that, and 10 years down the road, no one's even going to remember them. And
the game doesn't matter. It's the experience and the story.
Yeah. I
wanna point out something. I was on a live stream with these guys who are doing the game Novus Eterno. It's a MMO RTS. And we met them at PAX East in 2012, and the guys were really jazzed, very excited. They've been working on this game for like 7 years now, and they really wanted to get a publisher to pick them up. And they talked about how they went to these publishers, and they were like, "This sounds great. This is amazing. We really like the game, but how are you going to make money on it? What is the bottom line?" And they were like, "Well, we don't want to make it free to play. We want to make it like Guild Wars. You spend $50, you buy the game." And then you have the game, and you get to play the game, and you don't pay a monthly subscription or anything like that. But is there like any kind of extra monetization on Guild Wars? I don't even know.
I think you can buy like aesthetic items, but not game breaking. You can't like go buy a plus 90 sword, but you can buy a helmet that looks cool with no cool stats. I think that's how it is, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well that's kind of what these guys are going for. That you can have like a premium account and. Well, anyway, I'm not going to get too much into that. But my point is that they went to these publishers, and the publishers were like, "We really love the game, but we're not willing to take the risk into a game that's not been proven with A, B, C, D, E, F. We make money." And they're not willing to put the money out to take the risk. So they're going to make Call of Duty 1 through 420. They're going to make all of these games that we can't stand or that maybe they're good games, but I get bored with Call of Duty after Call of Duty 1.
Yeah, it's like I played it.
It's like, what does 2 actually do that makes it better? If graphics look better, I'm playing it on a PC, the graphics are already great. Okay, you got better textures. Woo. I just downloaded a texture pack for Deus Ex. Here we are 10 years later, or 14 years later, and that game is still amazing, and the high graphic texture pack that somebody took the time to go and do and put the energy into doing that, and the game, it's like playing a brand new game all over again.
It's almost game snobbery. Like, hey, we want original, unique content that stimulates our brain, has a good story, and is not something that we've played a million times.
Exactly. And the big AAA publishers aren't willing to fork over the cash. They're not willing to fork over, the $500,000 to make a game that's not already proven. And that's kind of counterintuitive. It really, I mean, it's like you had to take a chance to begin with. And so that's why you're seeing games like, the Double Fine Adventure or Noah's Eternal is on Kickstarter now. What was it? Wastelands 2 was on Kickstarter. Shadowrun Returns was on Kickstarter. All these crowdfunding games these companies were like, hey, are you guys willing to trust us to make this game and crowdfund this? And everybody give us cash so we can make this game. And everybody was like, shut up and take my money. Where big businesses were like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Our sources say that people don't like playing those games. Well, then you're asking the wrong damn people.
Well, you know what's going to happen, and if you look at the history with what Hollywood did, they started putting all their money into these massive, giant budget, movies, these ridiculous movies that they thought were going to work, and people got sick of them. So the last year or so, there have been so many, $200 million movies that made nothing at the box office because people were like, okay, you know what? It's been 10 years of the same big budget garbage. We are sick of it. That's probably going to happen eventually, but not quite yet when it comes to gaming. So that's what I see in the future is happening. All this playing it safe and not taking risks is not going to ultimately pay off, but it's going to pay off now, but not in the long run. I think that's what's going to happen.
And that's what's also destroying the industry, but I won't go into that.
Well, I mean, yeah, in a way. I mean, you're tying up a lot of developers in these big houses that could be doing other things or other cool projects. You're forcing them in a room and hitting them with a stick until they finish the next big budget game. But I'm not sure if it's destroying the industry. We still have a lot of other talented people out there making indie games and doing their own thing and wearing jeans and saying screw the man. So.
Yes, but that took. I mean, here we are. We're in 2013, and that took. This has been going on since the early 2000s. I mean, this kid's talking about. All is talking about the nets, and it's like we're going back that far because we've noticed the issue, and we've been complaining about it. Our generation's been complaining about it more and more over the last 7 years. But it's progressing to that point. I think it's at that point that you're saying you're not sure if it's going to get there. I think it's at that now, which is why you see all these crowdfunded games coming in. And it's not so much that we're nostalgic for these old style of games. It's where we want something different. We want something that's new and challenging. And Shadowrun Returns is technically it's an old story, but Shadowrun is a great game that's been around for a long time, and it's a new story in the same world.
I'm trying to be more relaxed with all this stuff, reality TV and big budget games that suck. My stance that I'm trying to take, and every day I'm trying not to get upset that people are stupid, but my new stance is just kind of listen. People are stupid, and I don't care. I care too much. That's the problem.
I'll drink to that.
People are stupid, and I can't care. I don't have enough to care. I'm just going to worry about the things that are good in the world and try to savor those things and try to hang out with our awesome audience members who do know what's cool in the world, and maybe they can turn me onto some cool things. But there are so many people out there, and they're just stupid, and there's nothing I can do about it. And the content is not making them stupid. They're just stupid by default. So I just have to ignore it and walk away, or else I'll be sad and cry on the floor again.
With the clown.
With the clown, yeah.
Pretty sure that would be the best of the Cannes Film Festival. That would be great.
I think I should enter that film in there. The next one's from Find Will, and this is a question that I did not look up an answer to, but I'm hoping that one of you guys knows the answer to this. And the question is in regard to the internet outside of ICANN. And he says, is there such a thing as a website whose top-level domain is not controlled by ICANN? What do you guys think about ICANN? Thanks, Find Will.
Yes, but not in the way that you expect.
Go on. Do go on.
Okay, so there's Freenet and there's Namecoin, and those are probably the two big projects, but there's a lot of little projects.
So, how do you feel about ICANN?
It's probably good that we have a central authority, but they're subject to corruption, and they enjoy making a lot of money, and now that companies can spend $100,000 and have an arbitrary top-level domain, I really hope that I am someday able to register clownpenis.fart.
It really worries me that America is so, involved or so closely related to ICANN, and they always want to get their hands on stuff with ICANN.
It's already pretty bad because you can register domains that have Unicode characters and extended characters, and so you can register Sony.com with the acrylic S and O and stuff, and That's bad from a phishing standpoint.
I mean, you got to remember that part of the reason we've got a lot of the problems with domain names right now, and the reason that the prices are increasing the way they are, is because there's a bunch of jackasses who registered 400,000 different domain names. They're like, think of everywordYouCan.com.
Yeah.
Register that. Somebody's gonna want to buy it someday. Yeah, let's get that
Didn't
too.
one idiot
and then you
like
got
register?
A bunch of spammers out there who are.
Didn't. Pardon me, I got a burp from all this beer. Didn't one idiot register like all 3-letter domains when it first came out?
Yes.
Yeah. Which
That bastard.
we call him an idiot, we call him a bastard, but that was fucking brilliant. Pardon my language.
Fortunately, they've expired, and if you're diligent, you can pick one up.
The other thing you got to remember is that there's spam companies out there who they register random assorted characters, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters long, dot whatever, .com, .net, .org. They just eat them up left and right because it's how
So
they.
cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap, and it's what, $10 a year for some of these domains.
Well, probably
and they
less.
pick them up.
Probably less money for them, but yeah,
Well, that's probably 'cause they buy
$10
them
for
in
us,
bulk.
but less for them.
Yeah, they buy them in bulk, so they get a little bit of a discount. But for the most part, you're still looking at they'll burn out that domain until it's suddenly it's being registered as spam constantly, and then they'll grab a new one. Or some of these guys are just getting to the point where they're just spoofing everything that really exists. But the ones that are trying to be legit, but they're not technically spam companies, but they're internet mailing companies that are trying to work within the bounds of the rules. They still have a lot of shady practices, and that's one of them. That's one of their practices. I know firsthand.
All right.
But anyway, ICANN it's like I said, it's a necessity. I wouldn't call it necessary evil because it's only evil if we make it that way, and I don't think it's got. I think it's just responded to the world of jackasses who are.
It could be a lot
making it
worse. Is the bottom line.
It could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is from. Is it Acar Michael or Acar Michael? I don't know. The tech thumbnails. Hey guys, just a quick question. Why are all the thumbnails for the tech always Logan face palming? I didn't really notice until now. Okay. Yeah. Are you? Is this something you guys do on purpose? Dude, have you seen the YouTube comments? Next question. That's it. Next question.
Moving right along.
You're moving right along. All right.
Your name is now Windell.
Wendell?
Actually, I'm trying to figure, is this Win like Winadell, or is this like Wind L?
Oh, he spelled
think-
it incorrectly.
I don't blame the Germans too much for misspelling it because the correct spelling for Germans means diaper, so I can live with that.
So if you go to
That's good to
German, they're
know.
all gonna. If you go to Germany or whatever, everyone's gonna be like, "Hello, diaper, come here."
That's Dr. Diaper to you, citizen.
I just peeked my microphone. Okay, so in the last video, someone was asking what the best free audio editing software is, and in this video, CyberCon7 asks, "What is the best free editing software for video?" So, our recommendations, and right here, the Whiskey Ranger, he knows what's up. Lightworks is probably the most robust, full-featured solution for editing, but you're going to need to pay a little bit of money per year if you want some certain codecs and some certain codec support for. I think MOV files needed. I'm not sure entirely. But
I think they've made it so it's free to use for stuff that's directly out of your like AVHC cameras and stuff like that. But if you want to like encode stuff into like H.264, you can't do that unless you pay the $60. It's a $60 a year for the subscription that gets you all of the codecs, and that's not because they want to charge you money. It's because there's licensing fees involved in all of those codecs, and in order for them to not just start spending money on you being able to use the software, you can use the software, but if you want the codecs, you pay $60 a year, and that's strictly licensing fees.
I found this software a bit hard to use because I came from Premiere, and I've actually used Final Cut before. I know some of you guys are gonna be like, "What?" Yes, I had an Apple, and I've used Final Cut before. It was like a long time ago. Like I had a G4, and I used Final Cut 2 on that machine because Premiere was not up to par at that point in time. Now I think Premiere is light years ahead of Final Cut. But when you're using those programs, this is a very different way, and you're going to have to kind of relearn how to edit. So
But if you're starting from zero, this may be very well. I mean, you may be able to just dive right into this and pick it up a heck of a lot better than either one of us ever did.
yeah, if you're starting from zero, this may be a really good way to go because it's cheaper. You're not going to be a slave to Adobe, which is kind of a pain. And this program, Lightworks, is used by some really major companies out there. I mean, for instance, a couple of years ago, the film that won Best Picture, the King's Speech, I think that was actually 4 years ago or something. They used Lightworks to edit that movie that won the Oscar for Best Picture. So this is not some like joke around software. This is stuff that they use in major production houses in Hollywood, and it's free, open source.
Yeah.
Except the codecs.
The other one that I would suggest looking into, I wouldn't say it's
You're
definitely
talking
the
Cinderella?
best free. Would be the Cinderella. No, I'm trying to remember. They God, I can't remember the name of it.
Is it Cinderella or is it Cinderella? I always mix them up.
I call it Cinelera because I call it Cinelera. They did people who were trying to support that software were having a difficult time interacting with the guy who made the software initially, and I'm trying to find they branched off and did something, and I'm trying to find out what that branch off was.
Well, that's only for Linux. But if you're someone who's using
is.
Linux, what we'll do is we'll put a link to that in the description for you. But we'll move on from now. And we will put a link to that if you're using Linux. But Lightworks actually works in Linux now as well. It was just Windows, and I think it might be Mac as well. But I don't know anything about Macs, so I do not keep up on what is going. Okay, Josh Speed. He wants to know why we're making fun of Estonia. I don't think we're making fun of Estonia, but Josh Speed says he wants an explanation to all the Estonia ISP jokes. Hi, I am an Estonian, and I would like an explanation about all the jokes about Estonian ISPs. I came across a couple in the last shows, and I've been catching up on all, but I don't understand it. Thanks in advance, Josh from Estonia. So you jumped in and responded to him, Wendell, so I'll go ahead and let you respond to the rest of the world out there, because I want to make sure that people know that we are not making fun of the ISPs in Estonia. I think we're more making fun.
No, to the contrary.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Go
making
ahead.
fun of America.
Yeah.
See, because Estonia, no offense, but your GDP, very small. American GDP, very large. And so I think that we ought to be able to figure out the whole internet access thing here in America. Unfortunately, internet in Estonia is faster and better than it is in America, as quantified by several reports. And
Yeah,
so,
well, I mean, if you really want to get into this, I mean, you said that the GDP was smaller, but I mean, how small is Estonia? You guys are up there next to Russia. You're close to Finland, okay? Your largest city has fewer than 500,000 people in it. So it's a very small part of the world, but the internet speed is faster than America on an average.
and the
It's
infrastructure
alarming.
companies there are like, we should roll out fiber because these aging copper infrastructure is just not cutting it anymore. So we need to upgrade with some technology that was invented in the early 80s, ... question mark.
We may have something very shocking and surprising coming up regarding the copper infrastructure in this country, in America, but possibly in other parts of the world. But I'm not going to divulge what it is right now because no one's talking about it, and my mind is still hurting, Wendell, from what you told us last night in the secret hangout chat thing.
Well, yeah, when you do the math. And I just sent you another article about that where Bell Mobility just got spanked in court. So we'll have more of that in the video.
This could be a big project coming up. All right, I'm going to move on from that article. And someone else is asking about a career, but this one's a little different. Do you guys feel comfortable asking this or answering this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Somebody wants to know what we do for a living, and I want to address this because a lot of people have been asking this lately. A lot of people want to know if Tech Syndicate is the only thing that we do for a living, and a lot of people have been asking a lot of personal questions. And while I don't really feel the need to respond to all the personal questions because I don't think it's any of anybody's business, I'm not going to ask you like who you're dating and where you live, and I'm not going to ask you like all that kind of stuff. But I will address some of this stuff because I want to share some things with the audience. So. They want to know what our careers are. So let me just get down to this question here from Do Shy Dance. Is that D00 Shy Dance or just, I don't know, people's names. I can never read them on the internet. I don't even know. All right. So this question is, what do you guys do for a living? And how did you get there? That's the most important part. How did you get there? So let's start with Kane. Kane, what do you do for a living and how did you get there?
I am a system network administrator engineer. A lot of infrastructure related things, everything from low voltage cabling all the way up to controlling switches, routers, networking equipment, actual servers. I'm an Exchange admin. I do a lot of my actual task is a lot of things. I'd say I have an IT job, but that just seems to put it in a box that I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah, you're pretty. I mean, you're extremely dynamic at this point. You had IT jobs in the past, and right now you are just doing whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, I to get how did I get here is I've gone through a series of different jobs, all in the same kind of networking system and network kind of field. Either I'm being some kind of network engineer, or I'm operating as like a networking slash phone voice over IP kind of engineer, or previously I've worked Windows stuff, I've worked Linux stuff, I've worked a lot of things. My current office, I'm also like the desktop support technician for my MacBook Pros that I have in the office, which really means I'm like the Maytag repairman for laptops, which is awesome.
So you know something. I want to make an observation here, and you can agree with this or just let it slide. But I will point out this: as long as I've known you, you've never been afraid to stop everything you're doing and just get up and go somewhere else and totally change your surroundings and totally change everything about what's going on. You've never been afraid to do that, even if you didn't know where the money was going to come from. Like I remember when you and I went west, we had no idea what was going on. We were just like, let's leave tomorrow. Do we have money? No, let's just leave tomorrow. We need to do this. Let's do it. And you've never been afraid of that at all.
No, not at all. And a lot of it, it's like I left. I grew up in Alaska, and I'll just where I came from. I grew up in Alaska, which gave me a little bit of a leg up on the people I ended up interacting with in Florida, as I moved from Alaska to Florida, so I could get away from, Alaska. Not that there's anything wrong with Alaska. I needed a change. I needed to get out and see things and do stuff. And when I got there, I realized that because I grew up there and because of the education I got while I was there, and the other things that I just stuck my nose into, and it's like, ooh, this is cool. How does this work? And I'd take things apart and put them back together, both software and hardware related. So when I got to Florida, I'm already light years ahead of the people that I was competing against, which I was like, well, it's kind of scary. Suddenly I'm like far beyond these people I'm interacting with, and I'm used to being the guy who's asking all the questions, and suddenly I'm the one answering questions, and that made no sense to me. But I mean, I got a couple of jobs down there. I worked as a low voltage cabling technician. I worked as I was a NOC network operations center engineer for a website that failed miserably. I worked at a spam company. I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. I just thought it was a marketing company. I was going to go in and work on their phones and work on their network. But when I got there, I realized it was a spam company. They actually did email spam, which is how I know that you have to get all those crazy domains, because that's what we were doing. And I'm like, and I'm the one who actually was tasked with doing that. So I kind of died a little bit. And so when you were like, hey, let's get out of Florida, I'm like, yes, please.
I won't tell them what you did there, so we'll move on from that.
But yeah, so we got out of there, and we went out west, and we stopped in Arizona. I got a job at a company that does voice over IP business phones, and they're basically a telecommunications company, but not in the same sense that like AT&T and Verizon. They specifically do SIP trunks for telephones. They'd send you a phone, they'd put it in your office, and you'd have a business phone line, but it would be dirt cheap by comparison to hooking up a 30-line phone system or something. And I was a network engineer. That's all I did was networking. I worked with big Cisco equipment. I worked with a bunch of other stuff, and I left there and ended up here in New York. And when I was here, I got a job working for whatever I could get my hands on. I started working for a company that was out in Long Island. That didn't work out very well because it was costing me more money to get there than it was to too
many train rides.
Yeah, the train rides out there were annoying. And then I got a job working at an apartment complex that did more like a hotel. They did like a hotel kind of apartment service. We'd rent an entire apartment, but they rented out at like a weekly basis or monthly basis, whatever. Anyway, again, phones, network kind of stuff. They had a little bit of a Linux backbone machine that I was working on, and then I got the job where I'm working now. Again, network systems, all that jazz. I have a love for computers, and I've had this love for computers since I was, I don't know, 5, 6. My dad had a IBM PC, and I was always like, "Can I flip the switch?" I actually had to ask my older brother to turn the thing on because I was too
The big
weak
rocker
to.
switch, right?
The huge rocker switch that was just
Yes.
massive on those old IBMs. I'm like, I couldn't actually physically move it. I was so small.
Yeah, I love those
And
things.
I got into computers. Later on, we actually got a Gateway 2000, and I got into the Gateway, and I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." I got into DOS. My friend showed me how to get into the help menus in the DOS commands, and I'm like, "Wait, what? Help? You mean this thing will tell me how to make this work? Where do I find the commands? How do you know the commands?" Like, "Oh, well, here's this command, and it can point you in this directory, which will show you all the command names." I'm like, "Oh!" Suddenly, I'm looking at all the help files and all of that, and I go from DOS to Windows. We were running Windows 3.1, and then I got Windows 95, Windows 98, and then my buddy was like, "Kane, you need to learn Linux," and I'm like, "What's Linux?" Because this was 94, 95.
Right when it first came out.
Yeah, right when it was just coming out, you could put it on things, and he dragged me to his house. We grabbed an old computer that we scrapped from pieces and parts.
Wait a minute,
all
wait a
over
minute,
the
wait a
place.
minute. Was that your buddy we met in Seattle?
Yes,
All
that
right,
guy.
good. And
Yeah, the guy.
and things worked out for him.
Yeah, no, he's done really really amazing. But yeah, I mean, but he showed me how to use Linux, and from there it was just again I always tell people like how did you figure out how to do this, or how do you know how to do this? And I'm like, I had Slackware 3. And I think they're up to like Slackware 15. So I had Slackware 3.0 was the one that I finally got my hands on, and I installed it. And the first thing he told me to do is recompile your kernel. I mean, you got to go through all this so you shrink
like,
your kernel
"What?"
down for your system. And I'm like, what? And he showed me the whole menu and how to go through every single option in the kernel. And I think I went through that. It forces you to go through every single option. It's a questionnaire. It says, "Do you need this for this? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no." And you go down this massive list. And I did that probably like 400 times. And that's not even an exaggeration. I spent 6 months. I'd install the machine. I'd recompile the kernel. I'd do something. I would break the C libraries, or I'd break something else. I couldn't figure out what it was that I did. I would reinstall.
So
I
I'm-
reinstalled 6 times in a day, I think was my highest one, because it just took that long to install it.
I'm not thinking the bottom line for you is just to do stuff. I mean that's what I'm thinking for you. Just to keep doing stuff,
Yeah.
know what you want to do, and keep doing stuff in that field. I'm going to switch over to Wendell now. So Wendell,
Yeah.
let's go to Wendell, and I think a lot of people know kind of what you do, but I think they're going to be more interested in how you got there. So
Yeah. So, I don't know. I've sort of been doing this since I could walk, and probably even before then. I got in trouble. Literally, one of my first toys was a block of wood that had nails and screws in it, and I had various screwdrivers, and I had to find the screwdriver that fits the screw. Like, literally, that was one of my first
how
toys.
old were you?
So young that I don't remember that.
Like, oh, that's great. Just give a child a buzzsaw. That's probably what I.
I've only seen pictures. I don't know. I think I was pretty young. So yeah, and then I remember the time that I took apart the television. I got in a lot of trouble, but I did manage to get the television put back together without electrocuting myself, and I couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. So that was good. I mean, I think I got shocked a few times, but it didn't give me like heart fibrillations or anything, so I guess that's okay.
I bet they were more worried about the TV getting back together than you.
Yes, yes. Well, and I remember it was probably the most magical thing was when I got a modem, because I was the odd man out. Like, literally, there was nobody. Well, there was one other person that I was best friends with that kind of knew what else was going on, but for all intents and purposes, he lived on the other side of the moon, so we didn't get to see one another very much. But then we got modems, and it was like, oh, we could be connected and chat and learn stuff. And as soon as we got modems, it was all over, because, as soon as we got modems, we were downloading like Linux kernel version 0.73 or 0.5 or whatever from like the Kansas City BBS.
Yeah, let it run for a day and just get it the next
Yeah,
day.
and then it was all over, because that was at like 9600 baud or something. It was crazy.
Those things were fun.
I remember I was a member on a BBS for like a year or two, and I showed up, and it was like, oh, we're gonna have a get together at like Pizza Hut, and I was like, yeah, Pizza Hut, and so I schemed, and I figured out a way to go to Pizza Hut, and I was probably like 12, and I showed up, And they were like, "My God, you're young. I don't understand what's going on." And it freaked everybody out. And in retrospect, it's really funny, but I didn't understand what it was. And then, like, after I'd been there for a couple hours and chatting with everybody, they were like, "How old are you?" Like, 15, 16? And I was like 12. And everybody was like, "Oh, God, we've been making dirty jokes. I don't understand."
The internet has not changed much. Except now the
It wasn't
12-year-olds make the dirty jokes and the older people go, "Oh, God, no."
It wasn't even the internet. It was just Usenet at that point. So, I mean, it wasn't even, I don't even.
And Usenet is still around, and they can't do anything about it, but we'll not talk about that here.
I don't know what you're talking about. Shut up.
Usenet, I never heard of it.
I don't even know. But for the day job stuff is really the best way to explain it is I'm a consultant and I solve problems for money. So that's about it.
Yeah. If someone calls and
I
they need
have a
something, and you're
team.
like, "Hey, I can do that."
I'm fortunate that I work with a whole bunch of other people that really, really know what they're doing, and they can really get stuff done, and I just sort of ride their coattails.
Can I sum it up as saying, like, someone calls you and they're like, "Hey, I really need this, and my head hurts, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and please help," and you go, "Okay, yeah, we'll help."
Yeah, pretty much.
How did this? I just want to see if you're comfortable saying, how did you start that? Because I mean, that's something that everybody sees. It's like, oh, you're there now. You've got got your team. You've got your consulting firm. But where did that first phone call come from? Did you seek somebody out? Did somebody refer you?
Weren't you just
No,
like in college and helping people out here and there on the side? Is like, "Oh, you got to call Wendell. He knows something about this stuff." Or, "Oh, your computer's broken. Yeah, let me call Wendell. He's a friend of mine. He'll help it." Was that it, kind of? Or
It's yes, but it's even like the first time that ever happened is a much more interesting story, and I'll give you the abridged version, which is I was still in school, and it was before college. It was well before college, and the school system had a token ring based network, and my friend and I, who were very smart at doing stuff with Linux, we built a machine that could do a computer. Basically, we took a computer that could do network address translation between token ring and Ethernet. And the school had a bunch of Ethernet computers that were not on the internet, and they had a bunch of computers that were on the internet, but only the token ring computers could get on the internet.
that
So we
sounds
built a
natty.
device. Yeah, we built it. It was completely natty, as a matter of fact. And that was
natty.
after a few years. I mean, that was like Linux version 0.96. So we'd already been using Linux for a year or two, and so basically, to make a long story short, we built this thing to solve a problem. We worked with the administration at the school and through the rules of the school, and we're very careful not to step on any toes or anything like that. And it sort of made its way back that we had done this, and then there was an investigation, and it was like, "I don't understand, we need to do this." And at one point I was having a conversation with people very high up in the school administration hierarchy, and they were like, "Well, it's good that you've done this, but I hope you understand that we can't use this. We need to buy a box from IBM to do this, because we can't, this Linux thing is probably not going to take off, and I've never even heard of Linux, and Linux isn't a thing, and blah, blah, blah." And it's like, we need to buy a box from Linux to do it, but we can't afford to buy a box, or we need to buy a box from IBM to do it, but we can't afford to buy a box from IBM. And I was like, "Well, how much is the box from IBM?" And the guy was like, "Well, it's about $10,000. And I was like, "Well, you don't understand Linux, but it's free and open source. If you could save $10,000 at one school, imagine how many schools you could save that much money at across the state. Wouldn't it be worth your time to learn?" He turned about 3 shades of red, and he didn't say another word to me. And that was really the first consulting project I ever had, where it was like, "Let me solve your problem for you."
And he wasn't really ready for that.
No, they were not ready for me to solve their problem. In fact, it was very lucky I didn't get expelled. But
I don't know. I think I would have gone the next step and be like, "Okay, look at it this way. You say it costs $10,000 for you guys to learn. How about you guys pay me half that, and I'll make sure
yeah,
it's
right.
in all the schools."
well, no, that was the joke, because it was like, "I'll do it for free. I'll show you. I'll teach you. But if you could save $10,000 at one school, imagine what you would save on a whole state scale." Because the guy was high up enough that
Wow.
those changes could be affected. But they were real big fans of IBM. I think it's funny that IBM, in since then, IBM has embraced Linux and made a lot of money on Linux. There's a certain irony there that doesn't escape me.
Maybe we should make those predicting the future videos that you mentioned before. I guess it's my turn now, and I'll try to be as succinct as possible. But I'm a nerd who favors acting and improv comedy and that sort of thing. So, while I love to sit around and play computer games and nerd out about different technologies, My main focus was always like entertainment and the entertainment side of things. And so I started doing acting, and I've done a gazillion plays and a lot of improv comedy professionally and that sort of thing. I've actually been paid to do improv comedy. That's what makes it professional. You can say you're a professional until you're blue in the face. Like there's a million professional photographers out there, and they think they're professional because they have a camera they paid $500 for, but they've never been published. They're not professional in my eyes. Anyway, back to what I'm talking about.
I came up with a solution to that. As I don't actually consider myself a professional photographer. I'm a master photographer because I have the skills of these guys. I just don't do it for a living.
Yeah, you just know how to press the right buttons and turn the right cranks. It's like operating a submarine. Anyway, back to this nonsense. So I did a lot of acting, and I remember one day I was sitting there in a casting room, and I think it was for like a major project, some like some television show or some crap like that. And everyone in the room is just like one person over here in the corner is talking about how their butt turns red when they slide down the stairwell. And then someone else is talking about how, I felt like I was in a room with a bunch of 4-year-olds. But these people are 25 years old and stuff. And I looked around and I was like, oh my God, I need to hang out with nerds. And then I started this. So the idea with this is that, hey, I can do whatever I want. It's difficult. I'm working like a lot of hours and that sort of thing. But this is what I do now. And YouTube, everyone's like, oh, you make all your money on YouTube. No, I don't make all my money on YouTube. I have some other things that are outside of this that I work on as well. Some other investment things and that sort of thing that I work on that keep me from starving to death so I can afford to do this all the time because someone has to do it all the time. If these guys are working a lot, Wendell and Kane help a lot on this stuff, and I would be dead without them. But I'm the one who does it all the time as far as producing content goes. And I think the next logical step for me is going to be to integrate some of my entertainment background into this. So that's what's to come as we roll out our different subscription models for you guys so you guys can help give back to the website. We're not just going to continue doing the same things with that money as we actually accrue some funds and that sort of thing. We're not just going to keep the content the same. We're going to keep the integrity of the content the same, but we're also going to expand into some new things, maybe a new show. Maybe I'll try to find someone else to help me do some hardware videos so that I don't have to do them all and I can focus more on the tech and the inbox and also some entertainment segments coming up or something like that. Maybe more travel, but that's really the logical next step. Maybe a nerdy movie, who knows? But that's all in the future, and that's all kind of my goal. But I really did come from an entertainment background, but I'm also someone that enjoys all the nerdy stuff, and I really just got sick of the entertainment world. It's too vapid. Oh my God, it's full of people with I can't even, I don't want to say, I'm trying right now not to say anything incredibly non-PC or whatever. So yeah. So I'm going to end it right there. We're almost out of time on the memory card, so I'm going to do one more question, and then we'll be good. So last question of the night is from Nico43. Dear Logan, it's about static precautions. Dear Logan, I am doing my first PC build to replace my Crapple. Very good job. And I was wondering what static precautions you take to make sure you don't ruin your expensive PC parts. I have heard of anti-static mats and wristbands. Are they any good? For me, I just do it, and I've never had any problems, except for one time when I took apart an SSD, and I didn't even touch the damn thing. I just took the shell off so I could show the inside of the SSD, and after I put it back together, it did not work correctly. It was like, I don't like you anymore. Other than that, I've never had any problems. I've had motherboards on my head. I've had RAM in my pocket. It's incredibly stupid. And here's what I'm supposed to say. Yeah, as a diplomat from the world of technology, you must use an anti-static mat and you must use a wrist guard that is properly grounded. So that's what you have to have.
I want to address that because one of the things that everybody always talks about is proper grounding. And one of the things that they always tell you to do is, have your anti-static mat, unplug your computer. And I've got to the point where I'm like, no, actually leave your computer plugged in. But if you've got the rocker switch in the back of your power supply, flip it to the off position. You lose all of your conductive.
But the ground is still going to the outlet.
But the ground is still there. So your whole machine is grounded. The case is grounded. And then just touch the case. Touch the actual frame of the case and grab a hold of it. If you're really concerned about it, you can actually hold on to one edge of the frame and you're always grounded. You're now grounded ground, like actual electrical ground. And people are going to be like, no, don't ever do that.
Okay,
I do it. I haven't had anything explode on me ever.
Okay, Wendell, I've seen you trying to get some components off of a board that were like too securely fashioned. I've seen you press a motherboard to your chest for stability while trying to rip out like some RAM or something that was stuck. I've seen this happen, and then I saw the thing work.
As long as you're not wearing like a reindeer sweater, it's completely fine. You also should take off rubber-soled shoes.
Yeah.
We don't want to tell people. Listen, I don't want to tell you guys out there that like you should do these things. The only thing I'm not going to take responsibility. I'm not going to take responsibility for anything. You guys have to use a grounding bracelet and all that crap, but I don't do it.
Yeah. It's just a matter of understanding what causes your static discharge and what causes that. If you're running around on carpet with socks, you're going to create a static charge. If you're on concrete floors, less likely to have them.
Yeah, concrete
really
floors barefoot, you're in great shape.
But if
or
you're in
wood floor is even better because
Yeah, but if you're in a very dry environment, that can generate a lot of static just by walking around. Don't grab stuff out of the dryer and then run around and start touching stuff. I mean, that's probably a bad idea. But it's understanding your environment. I mean, the best, he actually says the best. No, he doesn't say. Wondering what static precautions you take. Never mind. If the best precaution is a clean room that is moisture and temperature controlled with full static sensitive stuff, no dust in the air, that's what everybody should do. They should make a clean room in their house, and then I will come to your house to work because I want to work in a clean room.
I just want to mention one more thing before we go. If anybody else in the comments tells me that I need to be wearing like some kind of anti-static stuff, I will uppercut you. I will just find you and I will uppercut you. Just leave me alone. I'll do my own thing. It's none of your business. You can do whatever you want on your own things, and I don't want to be a bad example to people. I want them to use the anti-static stuff, but I'm just going to build freaking computers, man.
If I'm working on like a $9,000 Cisco router, I'll totally use an anti-static wrist strap, but if it's like a $200 Haswell motherboard, it's like, nope, it's fine. And if you have a case and a power supply and you're building a system, put the power supply in first, turn the rocker switch off and plug it into power. Now the entire case is anti-static. You can just grab the case and touch it and do whatever you're going to do, and you're not going to have any static.
Yeah, just like Kane said.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right,
also, don't go and turn the breaker off at the power socket because you kind of defeat the purpose. And now you just get a really long static charge cable.
No, actually, you could turn the breaker off, and that would be fine.
The ground would still work, right? The ground would still work.
As long as
you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
As long as it's NEC 2008 or newer, it should be fine because I think that 08. No, it's even before 08 because ground is hooked up to neutral now in the electrical box, and that's not part of the breaker circuit.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm still thinking old houses. In an old house, it'll just set your house on fire.
If the house would have to have like one of those those rocker switches where it's like 2 tines going from the bottom thing to the top thing. It's like. Ugh.
Also, if you're in the UK and you're running on like the 240. Because I'm still thinking 110. If you're running on like 220 or 210, 220 power, I'd still those things have got the on-off switches on the socket. Again, plug it in, click the off switch on the socket, and that way you don't have to worry about. You can actually turn the rocker on or off on the actual power supply, and you'll be fine. But as long as it's got that grounding plug, you're good to go. Because that's really what the concern is the grounding plug.
All right, one of you guys is going to have to do the outro because the power on the camera just kicked off. I mean, well, not the power, but the memory card just filled up. So who wants to do the outro? Because you guys are going to be on the screen because I'm not going to go dump this thing. We're done.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Inbox. It's all over. Everything is completely not on fire, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, remember, you can subscribe down here. You can send it, go to the website, check out the Inbox thing, and put your questions there. And what he said. See you next time.
Perfect. Thank you.